There's something about expensive places that makes people feel important. The quiet, the marble floors, the polished silver, they all whisper one message: you belong or you don't. Most folks try to prove themselves by ordering the most overpriced thing on the menu or by dropping a name they barely know. But the real ones, they don't say anything. They just sit, observe, and listen until they're forced to remind people who they are. This particular night, it wasn't a celebrity gathering or a charity gala. It was just a regular Thursday dinner at Mason Rivel, one of the most exclusive French restaurants in Los Angeles. The kind of place where the wait list was 2 months long and the sommelier had more Instagram followers than the chef. Jason Statham walked in quietly. No entourage, no reservations, just a tailored black jacket over a t-shirt and jeans. His boots clicked softly against the floor, carrying the same quiet confidence that had once broken down doors in war zones. Most didn't notice him at first, that was the point. But one person did. A young waiter, slim, overdressed for his age, with a haircut that tried too hard, locked eyes on Jason the moment he entered. "Excuse me, sir," the waiter said, stepping into Jason's path before he could reach the hostess. "I think you're in the wrong place." Jason paused, looked at him. Not angry, not confused, just waiting. The waiter smiled tightly. "Reservations only. This isn't a pub." Jason glanced around. The place was half empty. Didn't know fine dining had bouncers now. The waiter tilted his head, trying to assert some kind of status. "You don't exactly blend in here." Jason didn't reply. He turned to the hostess instead. She looked flustered, clearly recognizing him now, but caught between protocols and this overzealous employee. "Mr. Statham," Jason said. "I'll wait for a table." The hostess hesitated. The waiter leaned in toward her, whispering something Jason couldn't hear, but he saw the effect. She straightened her back and offered a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm sorry, Mr. Statham," she said. "We're fully booked tonight." Jason nodded slowly. "Right." He didn't argue, didn't raise his voice, just turned and walked toward the exit. But his hands were clenched, not in anger but in restraint. Because there was a reason he'd come here tonight, and it had nothing to do with food. The waiter turned back to his post, grinning faintly. To him, it was a small victory. Another no-name brushed off like dirt on a sleeve. Except Jason wasn't a no-name, and someone in the back room knew it. 20 minutes later, in the dimly lit wine cellar below the kitchen, a man in a gray chef's coat stepped out of a hidden side door. He was older, with silver at the edges of his beard and a sharp look in his eyes. He carried a phone in his hand and a knot of tension in his jaw. His name was Luke Morrow, head chef and silent partner in the restaurant. He'd just received a message from a number that didn't text often. "He's outside," and he was disrespected. Luke's stomach sank. Jason wasn't just a friend. He was family, not by blood but by history. Years ago, Luke had been cornered in Marrakesh by men with no faces and fewer rules. It was Jason who pulled him out. No medals, no press. Just quiet action and a flight home with broken ribs and a stitched mouth. Now Jason had walked into his house and been turned away. Luke climbed the stairs without a word. Back upstairs, the restaurant hummed with the soft sound of crystal and quiet jazz. The waiter, Ethan, according to his name tag, was back at his station, scrolling through his phone and making no effort to hide his boredom. That's when Luke appeared behind him. "You turned someone away," Luke said calmly. Ethan barely turned. "Yeah, walk in. No reservation." "Didn't match the dress code." Luke stepped closer. "Did he tell you his name?" "I don't know, Stansfield." "Stanner." Ethan waved it off. "Didn't matter, we don't just seat anyone." Luke looked down at him for a long second. "You just did." Ethan blinked. "What?" Luke walked past him, toward the front of the restaurant. The door was still swinging from where Jason had just re-entered. This time, not alone. Behind him walked Claire Rowan, a former intelligence liaison turned diplomatic advisor, known for shutting down embassy riots with one phone call. She looked furious, and flanking them, two silent men in dark jackets, not bodyguards, operators. Jason's tone was calm as he stepped forward. "Think there's a table open now?" Luke stepped in fast. "Jason." "I'm fine," Jason said, "but I think your staff's got a few gaps in their training." Ethan stepped forward, confused by the sudden shift. "What is going on?" Claire turned to him. "What's going on is you just insulted a man who's pulled more people out of burning cities than you've waited tables in." Jason glanced at her. "That's enough." Claire backed off. But her presence alone shifted the air. Luke gestured toward a booth in the back corner. the one normally reserved for celebrities and diplomats. Jason nodded, finally sitting. No drama, no grandstanding, just controlled silence. Luke knelt beside the table. I didn't know. Jason shrugged. Didn't come for the food anyway. Luke looked up. Then why? Jason reached into his coat, pulled out a small envelope. He slid it across the table. Luke opened it, hands suddenly trembling. Inside was a photograph, blurry, black and white, but unmistakable. A man in a chef's coat, not Luke, exchanging something with a suited figure in an alley behind the restaurant. Jason's voice was low. Recognize him? Luke's face went cold. He looked at the back of the restaurant toward the far pantry door. Jason followed his gaze. Luke whispered, he works nights, pantry rotation. Jason nodded. That's why I came, I need to talk to him. Luke stood slowly. Jason remained seated watching. Claire leaned in. Should we call this in? Jason shook his head. Not yet. If I'm right, this is bigger than kitchen politics. At the front, Ethan was still watching, still trying to understand what he'd triggered. One of the silent men approached him now, not aggressive but direct. You need to leave for the night. Ethan scoffed. Excuse me? Chef's orders. I work here. Not anymore. Ethan looked around. Luke didn't defend him. Claire didn't even look at him. The silent man took his apron off for him. Ethan stood frozen as the restaurant's double doors shut behind him. Back at the table, Jason took a sip of water, calm as ever. Across the floor, the pantry door creaked open, and a man in a black apron stepped out, wiping his hands, unaware of what was waiting. Jason stood. So did Claire. Luke just watched, because what came next was no longer just dinner. The man who stepped out of the pantry didn't flinch. His hands were stained with beet juice and flour, his apron wrinkled from hours of work. At first glance, he looked like any other line cook, tired, unbothered, invisible. But Jason's eyes immediately picked out the details others would miss: combat boots beneath his kitchen pants, a slight bulge in the chest apron, not from tools but from a concealed holster, and most of all, the tattoo, half hidden under his sleeve, just visible when he reached up to scratch his shoulder, a geometric design that Jason had seen before in Kabul, on a man they buried with a closed casket. Jason didn't say anything yet. He just stood. The man froze when he saw who was waiting. Claire stepped to the side, blocking his path to the back exit. Luke kept his distance, arms crossed tightly. His eyes flicked between the man and the envelope Jason had handed him just minutes earlier. I need to speak with you, Jason said. The man looked around the restaurant. Other staff had retreated into the kitchen, sensing something off. We can talk back there, the man said, voice low. Jason shook his head. Here, now. Claire motioned toward the private dining room in the back, glass walls, velvet curtains, isolated enough to keep prying eyes out. The man hesitated, then walked ahead into the room. Jason followed. Claire closed the door behind them. Only Luke remained outside, watching through the glass. Inside, Jason pulled out a chair. Sit. The man complied, not nervous but not cocky either. Trained, still assessing, Jason took a seat across from him. Claire remained standing, arms folded. I know who you are, Jason said, and I know who you used to work for. The man said nothing. Jason slid the photograph across the table again, the same black and white still of him passing off a package behind the restaurant. You met with someone 2 nights ago. That same man tried to follow a diplomat's convoy out of Van Nuys yesterday, got flagged, picked up. He was carrying modified schematics of our consulate in Algeria. The man's eyes narrowed slightly. You've been running material out of here, Jason continued. Through the wine shipments, that much I've confirmed. Still silence. Jason leaned forward, voice like a blade. This is where you speak. The man exhaled slowly. Then, you've got half the picture. Jason arched an eyebrow. The man tapped the photo. I passed him the package. That part's true, but it wasn't for me. I was told to hold it by someone else. Someone above Luke. Jason glanced toward the window. Luke was still there, watching, but now visibly uneasy. Claire stepped in. Who gave the order? The man hesitated again. You're not going to like the answer. Jason didn't blink. Try me. The man swallowed. It wasn't a person. It was a shell, a front, Hive Logistics. They brokered the contact. I don't know who sits at the top. Claire and Jason locked eyes. Same name they'd heard back in Larkridge. Same symbol Maya described. Jason leaned back. How long? The man shrugged. 6 months, maybe more. It started small, just messages. Then parts, then data. Why stay? They have leverage. Claire pressed family. The man nodded once. Jason stood. Where? The man gave a slow nod toward the wine cellar. Underneath. Hidden subcellar, locked. If you dig, you'll find a signal booster and 2 encrypted servers. Jason was already moving. Claire cuffed the man quietly. Jason stepped out, locked eyes with Luke. We need to see below. Luke hesitated, then nodded. Follow me. They moved fast through the rear kitchen, past staff frozen in place, past cooks who didn't know whether to pretend nothing was happening or run. Luke opened a small iron door near the back freezer. It looked like a wine cooler. Jason entered. A spiral staircase led down. It didn't smell like wine. It smelled like old wiring and burned metal. At the bottom, concrete floor and a vault door. Unmarked. Luke stopped. I never knew this was here. Jason stared at him. Someone used your restaurant. Someone used you. He turned the handle. The vault opened. Inside, 2 servers glowing faint blue. Racks of encrypted drives. And a switchboard built into the wall. Claire followed, scanning the equipment. Jason spotted a shelf in the corner, wine crates stacked high. But one crate was cracked open. Inside, hard drives, wrapped like bottles. He pulled one out, black casing, no markings. But he knew it instantly. Military-grade encrypted drives, NATO black site issue. Jason handed it to Claire. This is way past wine trafficking. Claire pulled out her phone. I need to make a call. Jason shook his head. Not yet. Why? Because whoever planted this, they'll come back for cleanup. And right then they heard it above them, footsteps, not 1, not 2, heavy boots. Claire put her phone away. Jason looked at Luke. Lock the vault door from this side. If anything happens, don't open it. Luke hesitated. Do it, Jason said. The door sealed shut with a thick click. Jason and Claire moved back up the spiral staircase. At the top, they emerged slowly. The restaurant was silent, too silent. Chairs overturned, tables abandoned. Claire drew a slim sidearm from her jacket. Jason moved low toward the edge of the main room. Then, glass shattered. A flashbang rolled through the side entrance, bursting in a dull white cloud. Jason shielded his eyes. 3 men moved in black tactical gear, faces covered, not LAPD, not official, private, Hive. The same group from the gym in Larkridge. Jason moved first. He disarmed the first with a wrist lock, spun the man into a support column, then used the rifle to block the second. Claire fired once, hitting the third low in the leg. The man dropped. Jason ducked behind a table, dragging the first one down with him. Still want to call it in? Claire asked from behind the wine bar. Jason smirked. Now it's interesting. More boots sounded from the rear hall. Jason tossed the rifle aside, grabbed a metal serving tray from the floor and used it like a shield to disarm the next attacker. The fight was controlled chaos. Jason and Claire working in sync, precision over power. By the end, 5 men were down. 2 crawled for the exit, 1 was unconscious. Jason grabbed the last one standing by the vest. You here to wipe the servers? The man said nothing. Claire pressed a boot to his hand. Start talking. Still silence. Jason looked at her. They've been trained. No loose lips. Claire frowned. We don't have time to dig. Jason nodded slowly. Then we make them talk without asking. Minutes later, the LAPD arrived, real this time. Luke had sent a silent distress code through the kitchen's panic line. The officers found Claire calmly explaining the break-in. Jason. He was standing in front of the servers again, now exposed for police to document. No mention of the man in the pantry. No mention of Hive. They were already burying the real story. Later that night, Jason sat on the rooftop above the restaurant, watching the city lights flicker. Claire joined him. They'll bury this, won't they? She asked. Jason didn't look at her. That's the playbook. Claire sat beside him. We got some of them. Jason shook his head. The ones they could afford to lose. Claire handed him a photo, different from the one before, same logo. Different man. Jason stared at it. I know him, he muttered. Claire raised an eyebrow. From where? Jason stood up slowly. He trained me. The photo weighed heavier than it should have. Not because of what was in it, but because of what it meant. Jason Statham stood at the edge of the rooftop above Mason Rivel, staring at the printed image Claire had handed him. The man in the photo wasn't smiling. Military buzz cut, hollow eyes, a scar cutting down his jaw like a bad memory that never healed. A name Jason hadn't spoken out loud in over a decade. Gareth Voss. Jason whispered it to himself, as if tasting it might make it vanish. Claire moved closer. He trained you. Jason nodded once. Back before people knew my name, before movies, before London, before everything. He was my field mentor, My first deployment, he was the one who taught me how to stay alive. And now he's with Hive. Jason didn't answer right away. The air between them was still. No, he finally said. He is Hive. Claire stiffened. What? Jason turned, finally meeting her eyes. That symbol on the servers, the tattoo. The way this operation was built, modular, layered, designed to collapse if exposed. That's Voss's style. He was the one who taught us never to build anything you weren't prepared to burn down. Claire sat on the edge of a rooftop vent, processing. He faked his death, Jason said quietly. 2008. We were on a covert op in Kandahar. Mission went sideways. Whole team presumed dead. I got out, barely. They found pieces of Voss's kit, his tags. Never found his body, she exhaled. He's been building this ever since. Jason nodded, quietly. Out of sight, moving through places that don't ask questions. Wine cellars, cargo hubs, private schools. Anywhere the cameras aren't aimed directly. Claire looked out over the city. Then why now? Why expose it? Why the stun at the restaurant? Jason clenched his jaw. He wants me to see it. You think this is about you? Jason didn't hesitate. It always was. Down below, the restaurant had been cleared. No press, no footage. The police had left with their half-truth reports. The servers were now in Claire's temporary custody, boxed up and loaded into an unmarked van parked in a side alley. But the air still felt wrong, like something had been left behind. Like the storm wasn't over, just circling. Claire's phone buzzed. She stepped away, answered in a low voice. Jason remained on the rooftop, staring out into the dark, the photo still in his hand. Then another vibration, this time Jason's phone. A known number, he answered. No greeting, just a voice. Calm, familiar. You're getting slower. Jason didn't move. You're still breathing. The voice chuckled. I expected more at that restaurant, Voss said. You expected to get caught. No, I expected to remind you who made you. Jason's voice dropped. You're using civilians, kids, innocent people. I'm building something better, Voss said, and the old world needs to collapse first. You should understand that, Jace. We were soldiers. We were taught to break things before we rebuilt them. Jason's hands clenched. You know I can't let this go, he said. I know you'll try. The line clicked dead. Jason stared at the screen. Claire returned. Bad news. He's baiting me. She folded her arms. Then maybe we stop playing his game. Jason looked at her. Or maybe we flip the board. 2 hours later, inside a silent warehouse 3 miles from downtown, Jason and Claire began unpacking the servers. No lights, just LED glow and battery-powered scanners. Claire moved methodically. Jason stayed watchful. The servers were military-built, self-scrambling, delay-rigged. Any wrong input would wipe them clean. But Claire had worked tech units in Berlin. She didn't guess. She read, then something pinged. Jason stepped over. What is it? Claire turned the screen to him. It wasn't data. It was a video feed, live. No timestamp, no interface, just a static camera view of a dark room and a chair. In the chair, Luke Morrow, bound. Gagged, Jason's breath caught. He went back to the restaurant to clean up, Claire said. He said he was fine. Jason stared at the footage. Behind Luke, a door opened. A shadow entered frame. Jason recognized the gait, the shoulders. Voss. The video had no sound, but Jason didn't need it. He watched Voss kneel, whisper something into Luke's ear. Luke didn't react. Jason's phone buzzed. Another message. Mason Rivel. 1 hour. Come alone. Claire saw it. I'm going with you, she said. Jason didn't argue, but he knew what Voss really wanted. This wasn't an ambush. It was a meeting, a reunion. One built on years of silence, betrayal, and unfinished missions. At 2:47 a.m. Jason walked through the side entrance of Mason Rivel. It looked untouched, set tables, clean napkins, fresh flowers, but it was a shell. A ghost stage. Voss sat in the booth near the back, alone. Luke was there too, seated, arms free now but clearly shaken. Voss smiled when Jason entered. Didn't think you'd come. Jason didn't sit. Let him go, he's free. Jason stared. Voss gestured to the booth. Sit, Jace, no weapons, just words. Jason slid into the booth across from him. The restaurant hummed with unnatural calm. Why? Jason asked. Voss's smile didn't fade. Because this city's already lost. I'm just rearranging the pieces. Jason narrowed his eyes. By planting agents in restaurants, Voss leaned back. By building infrastructure, quiet, replaceable, invisible. No flags, no borders. Hive isn't an army, it's an idea. Jason exhaled. You always liked speeches. Voss leaned forward. You can't stop this. You're too old school, too emotional. Jason nodded slowly. Maybe, he said, But I've got something you don't. Voss tilted his head. What's that? Jason stood up. You forgot I don't need to win. I just need to burn the plan down. And from behind the bar, Claire stepped out, phone in hand, streaming, to 3 encrypted agencies, to private intelligence channels, to the news. Everything Voss just said, every arrogant word recorded. Voss didn't move. His eyes darkened. He stood. You think this matters? Jason stepped in front of Luke. No, but it puts you in a corner. Outside, tires screeched, unmarked vehicles, spotlights, sirens without sound. Voss didn't run, he just straightened his coat. I gave you a chance, he said. Jason's jaw tightened. And I let you speak. Voss smirked one last time. Then he pulled something from his coat, not a gun, a device. He clicked it once. Claire Dove. Jason shielded Luke. The ceiling erupted, but not in fire, in data, files, printouts, dossiers, all fake, all planted. A smoke bomb of information, flooding the scene with confusion. When Jason opened his eyes, Voss was gone. Only the chaos remained. The papers fell like ash. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, fluttering down in slow spirals across the empty restaurant floor. Some landed in soup bowls, others on wine glasses still half full. One caught fire on a candle. Another got trampled under Jason's boot as he scanned the chaos Voss had left behind. Jason crouched beside Luke, checked for injuries. Luke nodded weakly. His hands trembled, but his eyes were clear. I'm fine, he said, voice thin. He didn't hurt me, just talked. Jason glanced toward the door. No sign of pursuit. No sign of Voss. Claire walked through the mess, picking up scattered pages. The documents were all fake, reports written to look real but filled with nonsense. Dossiers with names redacted, surveillance logs of people who didn't exist, operations that never happened. This was the distraction, Claire muttered. Not just the escape, the whole meeting. Jason looked at one of the files in his hand. It had his own photo on it, a younger Jason. Tactical vest, Middle Eastern landscape in the background, stamped across it in red. Asset active, Claire noticed. You think it's real? She asked. Jason stared at the paper, then slowly folded it. I think it's meant to make us question what's real. 30 minutes later, they were in a private debriefing room inside a federal satellite office in West Hollywood. Plain walls, no cameras, just a glass table and flickering fluorescent lights overhead. Claire sat at one end, Jason at the other. Neither spoke. Across from them stood a man in a gray suit with tired eyes and a badge clipped to his belt. Agent Reese, department liaison. Jason had met his type 1,000 times. You're telling me, Reese said, that the man behind all this is someone presumed dead for 15 years and currently listed as a non-person by every agency we have? Claire nodded. He's built a network called Hive. You won't find it on paper. You'll find it under the bones of legitimate systems, Ungo, Shell Core, logistics routes. Jason added, and you just let him walk away again. Reese frowned. He didn't walk away, he vaporized. There's no trace of him on surveillance, not even thermal from the street cams. We'll find him. Jason stood. No, you won't. Claire watched silently. Jason looked at Reese. He taught me everything I know. You won't find him unless he wants you to. Reese crossed his arms. Then what do you suggest? Jason picked up one of the fake dossiers, now bagged in evidence plastic. You let us do it the old way. Reese shook his head. I can't authorize that. Jason walked toward the door. Claire followed. I didn't ask. The sun was rising over L.A. when Jason and Claire returned to the rooftop above Mason Rivel. The city below buzzed with life again. As if none of it had happened. As if the most dangerous man Jason had ever known hadn't just ghosted out from under every system designed to stop him. Claire sipped black coffee from a thermos, eyes scanning the horizon. You think he's gone underground again? She asked. Jason shook his head. He's never underground. He is the ground. The structure people walk on without seeing. She looked over. Then how do we dig him out? Jason smiled faintly. We don't. Claire frowned. Jason turned to her. We force him into the light. By noon, Claire had uploaded everything. The raw server footage, the stream of Voss's speech, even the images of Jason marked as active. But not to public networks. She dropped them into dark channels, whisper routes, places Voss's network couldn't resist monitoring. Jason watched from the side. Claire hit send, and then they waited. It didn't take long. 6 hours later, Jason's phone buzzed one message. Wrong move, soldier. Now you've made it personal. Attached, a live feed, not of a room this time, of a person, a woman, late 50s. British. Kind eyes, silver streak in her hair. Jason's throat went dry. Claire looked over his shoulder. Who is she? Jason didn't answer, but the pain in his face did. 2 hours later, Jason stood in front of a brown brick row house in East Hollywood. Not far from the noise of the boulevard, but quiet enough to be forgotten. Inside, a woman sat in a chair, reading a book. The same woman from the feed. Jason walked up to the door, paused. Claire waited on the curb. He knocked once. The woman opened it within seconds. She blinked in disbelief. Jason, he nodded. She threw her arms around him. He held her close. Her name was Irene, his godmother, the woman who raised him after his father died, the one who taught him what kindness looked like in a world that rarely offered it. She hadn't seen Jason in years, and now she was a target. I don't understand, she said, ushering him inside. Why now? What's going on? Jason didn't lie. He told her everything, as much as he could, about Hive, about Voss, about the files, and why someone like Irene, kind, forgotten, living quietly, was now leverage. She didn't cry, didn't panic. She just looked at him. You know what you have to do, she said. Jason nodded. Later that night, in an abandoned metro maintenance terminal, Jason and Claire prepared. They weren't going after Hive's network. They were going after its head. Claire had found a new trail, a private airfield in Baja linked to Shell logistics flights tied to Voss's operations. One plane was scheduled to take off before dawn. Jason had no proof Voss would be there, but he didn't need proof. He needed resolve. Jason loaded his kit, nothing flashy. Knife, pistol, shoulder mic. Claire checked the tracker they'd embedded in the stream. It was pinging from the Baja hangar. Jason zipped his vest. We finish it. Claire stopped him. Are you ready to face him again? Jason turned. I've already faced him once. Pre-dawn lights spilled across the cracked tarmac. The hangar looked abandoned, sheet metal rusted, lights out. But the sensors told a different story. Jason moved in from the east. Claire circled wide to the west, feeding updates through comms. 3 heat signatures. 1 near the plane. 2 inside. Jason moved like shadow. He entered through a side panel, silent as memory. Inside, the air smelled of oil and metal. And waiting at the center near a cargo crate stood Voss. He wasn't surprised. He wasn't armed. He was ready. Thought you might come, he said. Jason said nothing. Voss raised his hands. No weapons, no tricks, just us, like old times. Jason stepped closer. You dragged an innocent into this. Voss shrugged. You made it personal. You already lost. Did I? And then, before Jason could blink, the lights went out. Claire's voice crackled. Jason. But he was already moving. Shots rang out from the side, not at Jason, at the crates. Voss was gone. Jason chased the echo through boxes, through steam. He tackled a figure in the shadows, but it wasn't Voss, it was one of his decoys. Jason searched frantically. Another noise behind. He turned. A door slammed shut. The plane was rolling. Voss was on it. Jason sprinted through the hangar, leapt onto the cargo ramp as it lifted. He climbed, pulled himself in, gun raised. And there, seated calmly, buckled into the pilot's seat, Voss, grinning. Jason didn't fire, not yet. You came alone, Voss said. Jason approached. No backup. Jason fired once into the dashboard. The plane's lights died, systems shut down. Smoke began to rise. Voss tried to move. Jason grabbed him, dragged him out the side door, tossed him onto the tarmac as alarm screamed. Claire arrived moments later, handcuffing Voss as Jason stood over him, breathing hard, but steady. By sunrise, Voss was in custody. Claire uploaded the final confirmation packet, clear evidence of Hive's infrastructure, Voss's admissions, and the Baja hangar records. Jason sat on the hood of their van, watching the clouds move. Claire joined him. You did it, she said. Jason shook his head. No, Claire frowned. Jason looked at the horizon. There's always another one. Claire sat beside him. Then we keep going. Jason glanced at her, smiled. Then looked at his phone. Another message. We were always more than one. Hive. Jason's smile faded because the war wasn't over, not even close.